Hi, Chase Shurick, Cole McCoy coming to you again with another episode of EFES In The Trenches, episode number 39 here.
What's going on?
So we're excited. Cole and I have a special guest with us here. We've got a gentleman who we work with, but we also consider him a pretty good friend of ours as well. He's not a loose cannon award winner here at EFES, but he is a top producer, top agency builder. We've got Mr. 5 million, Josh Jensen with us. Last year, personal production, Josh was over 200K, and then his agency also did over 5 million. So, Josh, we welcome you to the podcast. Definitely going to have to get you on more here. But, Cole McCoy, what are we talking about today, my man?
Chase, what's going on, man? I'm excited about what we have going on today. We get to hear from one of the best in the business, and Mr. Jensen. We get to have a conversation today about really, just reminiscing on being a new agent. What worked for us? What mistakes did we make? Where did we drop the ball? Where did we succeed? And ultimately, I think the crux of it is, as a new agent, if you're listening to this, take some notes. What are some mistakes that we made that you don't have to make if you implement this advice? And so I'm excited for this conversation, Chase, just to kind of hear the wisdom and candidness of Josh, and to share some of our triumph, some of our defeat, in what has made us the not 92% of agents in the business that eventually fail. So, man, this is going to be a good one. I think I'm probably more excited about this one than any of the ones we've done. I know I say that all the time, but I'm excited, man.
I know you are, and we've been trying to get Josh on for a while now. Not his fault for not being on, really ours, but we're excited to have him on. Josh, for those of you out there, Josh is going to give it to you unfiltered. For each and every one of the producers he works with, he's just straight up with you, and he's going to tell you, this is how it works, this is my opinion, this is how it is. And so, Josh, I want to kick this bad boy off after all the pleasantries. We want to kick this bad boy off, and we're doing some prep work, talk, how we got into the business and all that fun stuff. We've had those conversations a lot, probably since we've known each other over the past couple of years. As Cole alluded to, let's talk about, kind of starting off with the genesis of the whole thing. We'll look at first, what was your impression when you first got into the business? What was your first impression when you got going?
Well, my first impression, so I came from the wireless industry, and I remember we were the annoying cell phone guys in the mall. You used to ask you what kind of phone you had when you walked by, and I remember it was very tough. It was a tough business. I had a lot of fun doing it, but I remember we would always get what we called walk-ups. These are the people that walk right up to the kiosk, and they would say, I want to buy a phone. And they were lay down. I mean, you just sign them up and give them a phone. And I remember going to so I started out with a company. It was very MLM style, did a lot of hotel meetings, filling in circles here and there. And I remember going to this and meeting these top people who, one of them actually owns a major IMO now, and meeting these people, go to this meeting, and, just seeing some of the people that were there and making all this money. Like one of these guys looked like Buzz Lightyear, and he's like, yeah, I just made $6,000 last week right before I went on vacation. I was like, Jesus. And I remember there was a guy there, and he had a worse eye twitch than I did. And he had somebody there with him. And I was like, wow, this guy is like, his twitch is worse than mine. I was like, and he's doing it, and I remember going to this top guy, and I was like, so I just want to get this straight. So they fill out this form. Talks about, the time it was doing mortgage protection. I said, they fill out a form that says, they want to, get something to protect their house and everything like that. He's like, yep. And I said, and then we just go there and write them up the policy, and we make $550 off each one. He's like, yeah. I was like, it's that easy, huh? And he looks at me, he's like, yeah. I was like, all right, fine. So, and I just figured there were so many people there making money. I'm like, I know I could do it. And I went home that week, and it took me about a week to get my license after that. What they didn't really tell me, though, is nobody went over the math with me. the numbers. They just said, hey, buy leads, go out, work, and that's it. You know, rinse, repeat. And you know, it was tough in the beginning because I didn't know what it was. Nobody trained me. Nobody threw me in the car. They said, you know, watch these videos, listen to these audios, come to this boot camp. And I had these top people, but I was still so green. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know the industry, you know, what people were talking about. I hadn't been out in the field yet. And this is the end of 2011. And the truth, too, is I didn't really put in the activity. You know, I was just kind of running a few appointments, really wasn't working. It was frustrating. And at the beginning of 2012, I still remember, I said, you know what? I'm going to make the commitment to put in the activity that they're saying you need to be successful. And I remember, you know, still my upline, you know, this big mentor and everything wouldn't work with me, avoided me, thought it was annoying. You know, and I remember putting in activity, and I said, you know what? They always said you got to make 250 dials a day, 250 dials a day to set X amount of point, or not a day, a week to put it down. And I said, you know what? I'm going to overcommit. I'm going to do 500. You know, I was like, and then if the system didn't work, I was going to drive to Connecticut where his office was, and I was going to punch him in the throat because that was it. Like I was so mad and angry. Like, because I had a very fierce conversation with his mentor, and, you know, he just really just told me the truth. He said, listen, you're annoying. He's like, and you don't even put in the work. So it kind of lit a fire internally for me to just like, you know what? I'm not only going to prove that your system sucks, like I'm going to do it twice as much. And then when it doesn't work, like it's over. You're calling the cops on me because I just beat the hell out of both of you. And you know what, believe it or not, I started getting a lot of appointments by making a lot of activity, you know, but I was calling on leads. I mean, you're talking this is 2012. I'm calling on leads, say 2010. And these were old leads. And it wasn't, hey, go out and door knock these people. It was, no, go out and set appointments, make 250 dials. And, you know, I had to get creative on these things. And, you know, it's not like my normal phone script is now, you know, where it's somebody that fills out a fresh lead. It was a very, very creative way of getting on. I don't know if you want to hear it or not, but that could be another podcast. But you know what, after a while, it you know, I got better and better and better. And, you know, and then it was really just learning not riding the emotional roller coaster in the business. And that took me several years to do because, you know, especially when you're at a low contract and you're paying, you know, high cost for leads, like you have to close a lot of those to actually be profitable, you know. I mean, and it got to the point I was in a system where I was working 80 hours a week just to be broke. It was tough.
Now, we're not going to name any names of the companies that you were working with, but you were with one of the very famous over the past decade companies that was notorious for the low comp and stuff like that. But your first impression was, wow, it's that easy, the sales process, and make that much money. When it came down to you actually getting going and becoming successful in the introduction, I know I'm going to get to Cole because I want to ask Cole this, even though we've done this before. I think it's powerful to have both of you guys going over it. Your first impression we've got, but what was the biggest lesson that you picked up as a new guy when you first got going? What was the big aha moment, the first one that you
had? Following the system, putting in the activity.
That was the biggest one, is like, I know all of this other stuff, even though I'm new, but it's just following the system to a T.
Well, yeah, because I think, you know, the activity is going to bring the experience. You know, I was always told, and I still even talk this when I talk to new agents, like you got to go out there and you got to make as many mistakes as fast as you can, you know. And if I always just thought, I was like, if anybody was good at screwing things up, it was me. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to go out and I'm just going to work as hard as I can, and I'm going to make a ton of mistakes. And I made a lot. I still make a lot, but back then, I mean, I don't know how much time we have, but I could tell you some stories.
When it comes to that, Cole, for you, the same thing. I mean, what was that first aha moment for you that woke you up and said, man, this is something I'll never forget right here. This is going to be a game changer for me?
I mean, man, I could think back to when I first got into the business as well. I mean, I just needed a change, man. I needed a new just kind of perspective on life. And I always tell people that, you know, I got in the business because I met my wife and realized pretty quickly I was out of my league, and which is true still to this day. And but also, man, I just needed a change from scenery, from my scenery and just where I was at in life. And so I got into insurance, and I just really couldn't afford to fall back, you know, go back. I dropped out of college because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I had to start paying my student loans and figure out how to make a living. And now I have this person that I'm aspiring to support or whatever. And so I had to make it happen. So I think looking at it for me was, when people say there's no plan B, like, I really lived that, where there wasn't another option. I mean, I learned a 7-page script, word for word with proper punctuation. And I mean, I knew it better than most of the managers did. And it's not to brag. It's just, I knew that that's the only chance I had at being successful at that time. I mean, it was just, I think that has defined my career. It's just, it's either going to work or it's not. And there's no room to be half in, half out. And so even though it was a very inferior product, even though it was, you know, kind of the boiler room mentality, I'm thankful for that space because it taught me how to sell. It taught me, you know, how capable that we are as not just humans, but, you know, as agents, just to step into something and grind and make it happen. And so that aha moment for me was, I mean, in the beginning, I mean, I can't, hold on. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I was able to pitch clients practicing better than my managers were. I'll put it that way. And I realized, like, at that time, okay, here's where I'm at now. Looking back on those situations, whoa, you know, I don't know if I should look back at that with pride or just like, man, that's just a notch in the belt. But I could think of a lot of aha moments along the way as things got going. But yeah, when people say no plan B, I think I lived it. Because for me, there really wasn't another way.
And all of us are involved in social media. I know that you guys are heavily involved. It's super cool for me to be able to sit here with you guys. We all have different backgrounds. We all come from a different you know, kind of coming up, as they would say. It's really neat to see you guys do what you've done as personal producers and now be where you are, growing, building, and leading an agency that's as successful as both of you guys have. One thing I'll throw out there that I'll mention for those watching, we all see it. I know you guys see it as well because we talk about it. The Facebook groups, there's some really cool ones out there. But the questions that get posed a lot of times in the responses of, you know, what about this? What about that? There's some sharks out there, you know, and when the waters get chummed up, some of those people get gobbled up by organizations that just chew them up and spit them out. What made it for you guys to be the reason why you were not part of that 92% that failed out? Cole, you may have just answered part of it with, you had no plan B, but what was the reason? What made you guys not be part of that 92% that didn't make it?
That wasn't a wuss.
What?
I wasn't a wuss. I didn't make excuses. I didn't quit. I saw that I was working for too many people to know that it was me, and not the system or the business. Like, there's just too many people I saw making money, and I understood, you know, like, I had to look in the mirror and put blame first on the man in the mirror, you know, not the system itself, you know, and I just was willing to go to work, and I worked very hard. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah, for me, what you were referring to, Chase, I got gobbled up by one of those groups. and the way I look at things now, like I'm super thankful for my time there, because I don't know, like if I had started independent making good contracts, I don't think I would have learned what I needed to learn to be where I am today. So like I look at that as an opportunity to learn and grow. But I think for me, the reason I didn't become a statistic was because my first week out in the field, I bombed. I think I wrote one app and didn't hit my numbers. But I can remember vividly, I didn't take a day off for like 3 months. I mean, every Sunday, and my family and my friends, and they were all like, "Cole, where are you? What are you doing? Did you join the cult?" And in some ways, maybe I did. I don't know, but it was just that all in, like literal thing of, this was either gonna break me or I was gonna overcome it, but I'm not willingly gonna give up. And I think for my first 90 days, we refer to that as boot camp, and I took that literally. I was working every day. Like Jensen said, 80-hour weeks was very common.
We're going to circle back to this particular topic that you just touched on, which I like, because it came up the other night. I saw a new agent posting in one of those groups and asked a question, and a couple of people had a difference of opinion, and one of them was just getting smoked. We're going to come back to this. Going back to what you just touched on, though, finding that success, kind of, really kind of starting to figure things out, learning the hard way, as Jensen mentioned. At what point did you guys really start to turn the corner? What was your aha moment? Was it a huge week? Was it a huge month? Was it a huge string of successful months? For you guys, what was your own personal aha moment in the business where you were like, yeah, I got this. I can make this happen? Not all at once.
I mean, there's a lot for me, but like my second week out by myself in the field, I went from failing miserably the first week to writing, I want to say like $6,000 in my second week by myself. And I did that 3 weeks in a row. And, I just kept telling myself I can't afford to fail. So I'm just going to keep working until it makes sense. And so that was my first one. But, I had to have a couple more of those as time went on, because I even after that success, I almost failed a couple times. And probably partly was just because I didn't understand money management and things. But I think I got lucky a couple times, just finding the right people. Whether it's working with a certain company or finding the right clients at the right time. And that aha moment was for me was just the realization that that right person is out there. You just have to put in the activity to go and find them. You create your own luck. You go create your own circumstances, and it just came back to that activity. Like I was relentless in the beginning. I mean, I look back at those days, just remembering like the constant angst of, dude, this has to work, or like I'm probably not going to have a place to live in 3 weeks, So,
Jensen, I know that I'm not going to name any names, but you've kind of been around. I don't know how to phrase this, and I can't put a movie analogy behind it, but you're kind of that guy that has been at like so many organizations that people know so well. And I'm not going to name names, like I said, but there's one individual who's kind of a bulldog in our business. And you were literally like, you were right next to him. You tried to get in close and work with him. What was your aha moment? Was it with that group before they transitioned over to go do their own thing? What was your moment, man?
Yeah, I had been in the business for about a year, and it wasn't really until I would say October, November 2012. So I've been in the business about a year. I had gone to Pennsylvania, Tobyhanna, Pennsylvania, and I was working. I was doing the Army. I was reclassing, so I was going to school for the Army. We were working about 5.5 days a week, and I was going out and literally working a day and a half a week out in the field. And I literally was I was averaging $10,000 to $12,000 a month, working 1.5 days a week.
Wow.
And it was one of those things that, like, I realized that it was kind of, I got into that road warrior mentality You know, that was basically the birth of Mad Max, where it realized that, you know, if I'm traveling, if I'm very intentional about my time, you know, I know that I only have a little bit of time. I have to book so many appointments and sit with so many people because I only have so much time I can do it. You know, and I could go out and, like I said, I can write, you know, 2-3 grand in a day and a half, because I'm sitting with so many people. I was literally sitting with 10 to 15 people in a day and a half. And I realized too, once I got out of the Northeast, it was a lot easier because people were a lot nicer. You know, it made it a lot easier because I also realized that I don't work as hard when I'm at home in the field than when I'm on the road. You know, and I think that was that aha moment that it really got my confidence up on my sales abilities.
Can we all agree that that's the case for pretty much everybody that you know or have known in this business? That most people are they're gonna work harder when they're away from their backyard is. I mean, will we agree on that?
Yeah, but that was that aha moment, and then it got to the point I get back from training, and we have no leads in where I'm at. You know, it's around Christmas time. It's mid-December. We know how the mail is and leads are, and we had a bunch of people in a little area. We're not getting a lot of leads. And I realized, so I reached up to this bulldog that we're talking about and said, hey, I saw there's a bunch of leads down in Delaware. What do you think about me traveling? He's like, I think it's a great idea. He's like, you're going to work the hardest you ever worked. And you're going to be away from home. He's like, there's a bunch of leads. You'll just go out there and kill it. And I went in 2 weeks. I wrote almost $30,000 in 2 weeks when I went down there. Just traveling. We were running old leads too. It wasn't like I was getting fresh leads. These were leads that were 6 to 8 months old. Just hustling. And I just kept going down that year in 2013. I just kept going down there every week or every month or a couple times a month to work. You know, I mean, it wore me out too. You know, it definitely, you know, it completely exhausted me and grinded me out. But you know, that's where the momentum really started shifting me from being okay to being, you know, the birth of me being an elite level producer.
What was your total that year? Do you remember what your total production was that year?
I think I did around 200,000.
Oh, not that much. Not a big deal. That's an awesome number, man. That's killer.
Yeah.
Cole, when it comes to the 3-letter companies that I'm not going to name any of them, but you started with one of them. What was your aha moment? When did it wake up for you and just light bulb went off and you're like, I got this. I'm pretty sure I can make something happen here.
There was one sale I remember making, and it was pretty early in that I realized that, okay, this might actually work. I remember exactly what I pitched, how much premium it was. I remember everything about that house, because I had gotten in front of somebody from an appointment I had set. You know, the presentation went as planned. They gave me one objection, and I overcame it, and they closed and signed. And it's like, whoa, okay. And then I believe that same night I went and got another one, and it was like, boom, boom. Now, and then I'm calculating how much money I had made, and I'm like, okay, this is real. Let's go. And so it wasn't even like this crazy thing that happened. It was like that, one of those first sales I had made where it kind of happened. How, like, if as a manager now, when I'm out in the field training somebody, you know, I'm focusing on doing all the right things, saying the right things, having things in order, having a streamlined process, preemptively overcoming objections. They may give me one objection, but I overcome it. I close it. I'm not, you know, automatically taking the 60, 80, 100 that we talked about and going down to 30, just, you know, whatever. I'm overcoming it, sticking to my guns, and now they sign, and that happened. And, man, there's no feeling like that, you know, 6, 7 years in now. That's still, you know, one of the biggest rushes that I get is getting them to sign that check. I think that's why I don't know if I could ever completely get out of the field, but yeah, I still remember like that day so vividly. Even the road, like I didn't have cell phone service, and I remember the roads I was driving on. It was down in Coshocton, Ohio, And man, there's just nothing like it. And I got my little hit of crack, as we always say, because now you just want more of that, right? Yeah. And we just keep going. I mean, I'm sure, Jensen, you can relate to that too. You make that sale, and it's like, okay, we keep going. And then you get a mentality of, I made a sale, now I'm not going to stop. I'm going to go to that next house because now it's rolling. Now we're going. And that's contagious, man.
It is. You guys are two of the best that I've known in the business. Almost 13, 14 years at it. I want to throw this out there to you guys. I want to get your opinion on this because this was the topic I want to circle back to. I've seen this talked about now for a couple of months on social media, and it's something that I'd love to get a leadership opinion on. For agents coming into the business, now our model aside, we have a model where it's competitive contracts from the get-go, from day one. I want to get your opinions because both of you guys were cut from a cloth where you were brought in at extremely low contracts. You were given a platform where there was hand-holding or there was no hand-holding, like Josh said. What are your thoughts in terms of having somebody kind of earn their stripes, start low, work their way up? Josh, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on that? What did that do for you? And now being who you are in the business, what are your thoughts on that type of setup to start with?
Well, it's funny is that you bring that up because I remember, and Cole, you may remember this too, about it might have been a couple of years ago. Bowman sent an email to us, bringing that up about, that, most of you started out with higher contracts and fixed lead costs and fresh leads where, he was talking about, starting out at very low contracts and the BS, like generic leads that were resold and reworked and that people don't realize, how good they have it unless they came from a place of struggle, and I remember that I think I still have the email. I don't know if you remember it or not, Cole. But it got me fired up because I was like, you know what, like I can relate with this guy, because he's been through the struggle. He knows just how real the struggle is. Because I came from that. Like I understood, like, and you bring somebody on who's never experienced that, who's never gone through those struggles of being with those companies that have the low contracts, high lead cost, or no leads at all. And then they come over here and they really appreciate what EFES has to offer, because they've been in that place. But then you bring on people who've never experienced it. This is all they know. They don't really appreciate it. It's kind of like you don't appreciate something until it's gone. I know, Chase, you and I have had many conversations about like, oh, this person's leaving. Like they don't realize just how good they're gonna have. Like they had it over here until they're gone. Yeah.
Cole, what are your thoughts, man? You came from a background just like Jensen, where you were on a very, very low contract. We're talking about sub 50, and obviously here for those if you just tuned in, we obviously don't do that. But you guys started at some very, very low contracts. Obviously, it helps you develop a level of appreciation. Most of the time, you just don't know any better until now you've progressed, you've grown the business. But what was it like, and what are your thoughts on an agent starting higher now compared to kind of earning their stripes like you did?
Yeah, man, this is a mixed thing for me, man. I look at every individual, and I think we're all wired a little differently. I was making a couple grand a week on a 40% contract. I mean, it's just what it was, cash flow. But looking at what I have now, I agree with Jensen. I don't know that I would have appreciated it starting there. And I think for certain people, those captive, really low comp, tough products, if you look at it in the right way, I mean, I looked at that as a business. And like I basically looked at it like I went to college to learn how to sell, and am I glad where I'm at today? Absolutely. Did I actively leave there? Absolutely. Did I better my situation? 100%. Some people need that structure in the beginning. But you have to look at it as an internship. Those are the kind of MLMs. They'll teach you how to recruit. They'll teach you how to sell, and they'll teach you how to, because you're looking at leads that have been run 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and You know, whether you were with Jensen set up or with mine or whatever, you know, say what you want to say, but I learned how to sell, you know, and I was forced to basically work 6 days a week and strongly encouraged to work 7, and I did. And, you know, and I look back at that, and had I not probably started there, I don't know that I'd be where I'm at today. Like I might have been one of those that needed that structure to get my career started. And for some people, that's the case. Like, you know, we say we're not going to make this recruiting video, but we might not be the best spot for a brand new agent. We could be, as long as you understand how you're wired and who you are. Sometimes those companies are a good way. Go in and do your boot camp, learn how to sell, and then come get, you know, then come to the big leagues. You know what I mean? Some people, they understand what it is, and they understand the context. They do their research, and they know how to appreciate it. They know what else is out there and where a lot of us came from. And if you still look at those first 3 months like kind of as your internship, and you're willing to grind, you're willing to not really take days off to learn the business, you can still make it work. But on the independent side, no one's forcing you to do anything. You're 1099. You know, no one's forcing you to get up early, to stay up late, to live and breathe this stuff. But the reality is, I mean, I hate to be cliche, but if you're looking for a change and you're a new agent, you have to be willing to do something you've never done before. I mean, I'm sure, Josh, you can definitely speak to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely do. You know, and I think it's tough for new agents because, one, I think it's like you said, you know, and you have to have some kind of capital, some kind of cash flow when you're getting in to do it right in this business. You know, I mean, whether you need to get a license, you know, the course, E&O, leads, you know, you need some capital. I mean, I was given like $100 worth of leads, and they were giving me, you know, 20, 30 leads that were 2 years old. Well, most agents aren't gonna do that. They're gonna call a few people. They're gonna say no. They're gonna cry down the leg and pee. I mean, I didn't even know how to fill out an application. Like I remember my first appointment, and I didn't know what the process was. I literally sat with this lady and this couple, built some rapport, and I didn't know where to go from there. I had to reach out to my upline. You know, back then we had what was called a new agent mentor, so I was reaching out to him, and I would say, "Hey, Mike, you know, I'm sitting with these people. What do I do now?" Show them the prices, okay? You know, like how do I do that? You don't download the app on your computer? Nope. You know, I just didn't know. You know, but at that point though, Chase, I didn't care. I didn't care about learning the applications or the products or the software. I needed to go make money. You know, it wasn't even about that. It was just about I needed to go. Like I didn't care. I'll learn it. My mentality was I'm just going to figure it out as I go. Like, but if I just sit here, I'm not making any money, you know, pulling out a book and just reading it and studying it and trying to learn the product or anything like that. Like that's why if I talk to somebody and they're like, oh, you know, like let's learn the products or you know, I need to learn this or that before I go out. Like I literally want to choke them because like that's not how you're going to go make money. You know, especially in our business, like it's final expense. Like you want your product training, it's simplified issue your whole life. You know, when you die, it pays. The payments never go up, death benefit never goes down, never ends, and you make one payment and die, it pays full death benefit. There's your product training. Here are the leads. Go. Like, watch these videos, do these recordings. It'll take you about 4 or 5 hours from start to finish. Like, I could recruit you today, Cole. If you did everything started from now, you'd be done by 8 o'clock, and you'd have your leads. We get you set up with application. I'll email you over some applications. Here where you go, your e-apps. Go. Like, but everybody gets this paralysis by analysis, and you know, it's just like, you know, I know you want me to keep it PG, but it's like the Grant Cardone approach. Don't be a little bitch. Like, just go. Like, go. Like, I had a fierce conversation with an agent earlier, and he's just like, you know, he's like, you know, I want you to come up with a game plan with me. I'm like, here's your game plan. Like, you got 100 and some leads out in 6 applications. Your game plan is just get out the door and go to work. I was like, you do that? I was like, then we can have a conversation. But right now, you're not working.
Yeah, our business is like one of the biggest things is just, being able to connect with somebody, earn their trust, and do what's right for them. And you guys, I've seen over the years, of working with you, you always do that, obviously. And you try to instill that into the agents that you work with also. But what you just touched on is one of the most important parts for if you're out there in a Facebook group or you're finding this on YouTube, wherever, and just, man, where do I get started? Just get started. Find a home, go get started. Because the worst thing, we see people fail all the time. They'll call us, and they just never get started because, I don't have the money to put into leads. You better have somebody to see. And I'm gonna echo something that I heard from somebody in our industry. It was actually the Bulldog we were talking about earlier. If somebody tells you to go out there and be successful and don't work leads, you don't need leads, run the other direction from that person. You need people to see. You need places to go. You don't need to be selling your cousin, your uncle, your mom, and all that. That is a business built on sand, and you will fail so quickly. But like you guys are talking about, just get started. As we work on closing this out and we kind of go to our final topic, if you had a message to leave out there to the masses, to each and everybody watching, what would you want to leave if you had to encapsulate it and they were going to open it up a few years from now or see it now as a totally green new agent? Cole, what are you going to tell somebody out there to help them be successful?
Oh, I mean, I think Josh summed it up perfectly. I mean, we can talk about comp and knowing the organization you're working with and asking the right questions and having a good presentation, having the right product and blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, whatever you got, just go get it. None of that stuff matters unless you're willing to go get in front of people. Go get in front of people and good things will happen. You will have easy ones at times. You'll have hard ones that if you're a grinder, you'll learn from them and you'll get better and you'll move on. But I couldn't say better what Josh said, so I'm not going to try to pretend to. We've spoken on this ad nauseum. Paralysis by analysis will kill you, and you will become one of the 92% if you're going to overanalyze everything. Now, it's not a bad thing to have analysis and look at numbers and do this and do that, but none of that stuff matters until you actually go and do something. Go write some business. Go get in front of a bunch of people and then run your numbers. Let's talk about getting better, but it's not going to matter unless your knees are under tables or on disgusting couches or on front porches talking to these people. It's not going to matter unless you're sitting there giving a presentation. So, again, I'm not going to try to bastardize what Josh said. I think he said it beautifully with the proper candor. So just go freaking see people. You'll be fine.
Jensen.
Just go to work. This is not a nuts and bolts business. It's attitude and an activity business. I know that's probably cliche. You guys probably heard it a million times, but it's the truth. It really is. Especially in final expense. Jesus, final expense is the easiest thing to sell as far as intro. There's no moving parts to it. It is what it is. But if you're just gonna sit around and try to learn everything, there's a bunch of stuff I still don't know. I still don't know. But if I waited until I knew everything, I still wouldn't have started 8 years later. And that's the thing. At the time, I just needed to go. I needed to make money, Cole. It wasn't I needed to learn the product. No, I needed deposits. I had bills. I wasn't waiting around for something to happen. I had to go out and make it happen. That was the thing. And it frustrates me because you get somebody buys their leads. It's 4 weeks later they've gotten 4 weeks worth of leads and haven't written a piece of business. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm waiting for this or I'm waiting for that. I'm like, why? Go. Just go. Call me when you're in the house. Figure it out, And it's those agents that I'm frustrated. And then you get the agents that they don't know anything. They don't know anything. They'll call you up. Yeah, I'm with somebody. They're on the Cinepro. Okay, who do I write? Whoever you want, man. you know? And like, I get those agents aggravate me, but I don't get aggravated with them because, you know, I got a few of them that are new and they're doing that now, but I'm getting 4 or 5 phone calls a day from them. Like, I can't fault you for being in the field. That's stuff you're going to learn. The nuts and bolts, you're going to learn. You know, you're going to learn that as you go, but what I can't teach people is how to go to work, you know, and finding people that are willing to put in the work and actually, you know, have the activity that we're, you know, compared to a job where if you don't show up, you get fired. If you don't work hard, you get fired. This business, like, if you don't work hard, well, you don't make money, but you're not getting fired. You know, I never needed anybody to tell me to get out of bed and go to work. You know, my bank account kept me in that. And even after my bank account was full, still didn't need somebody to go out and work.
You know what's funny about what you're saying is, what's funny about that is, as you're sitting there talking, Cole's talking, and then you start saying your piece, you know who both of you guys will probably say the same name. Josh, he works with you. You know who immediately I think of? Totally new, didn't know anything, but he would get up and go to work. We all know who I'm talking about, right?
Samir.
Yeah.
Samir. $343,000 in personal production last year. Totally green to the business. Didn't know anything, but he would call you and ask you for help anytime he was hung up. $343,000 last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he went to work.
Still calls me when he's hung up.
Yeah. He's not taking 80 leads a week. He takes like 25 leads a week. He works them diligently. He takes them every week. He doesn't say hold off. But he said, Josh, you know, you showed me your numbers. You showed me your bank account. Let's go. $343,000 last year. And we both, you know, all of us have had the pleasure of meeting him and getting to spend some time with him. And that's he's about as an authentic dude as you get.
And that's not a knock on Samir either. He's legit. So
no, he's 100% legit. That's what makes him a great example. And we'll flash his picture up here to embarrass him later. But he's unbelievably authentic. And to Jensen's point and Cole's point, that is a prime example of what can happen if you don't let paralysis by analysis take over. You get your stuff organized, you get yourself prepared, and you just go to work. I appreciate you guys, man. This was an awesome one. Jensen, we'll have to do it again. Cole, I mean, I don't think we even have to vote on it. We're going to get this guy on again with us, right?
Dude, Josh, you spoke English without using certain words, and it was proud of you, dude.
I'm extremely proud of you, Josh.
No, it was great, man. It was good stuff.
Josh, we'll have to do it again. We appreciate you. Obviously, for those out there watching, they don't know, but the three of us know. You know, obviously, you're one of the tight-knit guys here. We appreciate you tremendously for doing this episode. We'll do it again soon.
Sincerely the best, dude. We appreciate you. Yeah.
Guys.
All right, boys. We'll do it again soon. And for those out there watching, any questions, if you're one of those that's in one of those Facebook groups or you're online or you just don't know where to go and you stumbled upon this video somehow, and you want to just know more, you want to talk to one of the guys about an opportunity, reach out. There's a number that's going to be posted after this video ends. Dial that number up. Google Josh Jensen. Google Cole McCoy. Look them up. You'll find them on the insurance forums. You'll find them all over social media. Connect with these guys. They're the best in the business. And appreciate you again. We'll do this all over again next week for episode 40.